Welcome to Illustration and Media Digital Applications. This is Module 4, Unit 4.3, Creating Animations from Scenes. Today, we will be learning how to save scenes to our file. We'll be creating smooth animations. And finally, we'll be learning how to export those animation files. I'm Sherry McKinley. Let's get started. To begin today's lesson, we're going to download a model from the Get Models location. Let's start there. And I think today we'll actually work from a kitchen. So let's type in the word kitchen and search. The one that I would like everyone to use for today's tutorial would be this kitchen. Okay, download the model, and yes. And we're going to bring that into our space and click. Now you'll notice that some of the models that come in from Get Models have an image beside the original SketchUp file and sometimes extra, let's call it space junk, I guess, out sort of further away. Now what we can do, just a reminder, when we want to edit a component, we can certainly do that at any time. So this is just a reminder of how much we can edit a component. What I'm going to do is I want to get rid of that image. It's a gorgeous rendered image of this kitchen. We are going to be learning how to do that in the next tutorial, but for now let's double click on that model to get into the component, select the item that we don't want, and erase it. And when we're done editing that component, we'll simply double click outside of that component again. Now you'll notice that this is a completely closed space. It's got walls around it, and it's going to be difficult to work with unless we do something called set up scenes for our drawing. Now I do images in rooms and spaces that are like this as well. I add ceilings to the spaces, and I do that so I can get the effects of interior lighting, and you too will be learning how to do that, just sort of adding those ceilings to give a greater effect. However, it makes it hard to then get back into the space. And so I always have to be very careful and try to carefully zoom, and it's just more difficult. So what we like to do is get as close as we can to our work. And we can orbit and pan and zoom. And when I get a good scene that I think is pretty efficient, or I can continue to work on my drawing, I'm going to save that scene. Now a few lessons ago, I posted a tutorial that talked about how to save scenes under the window menu. That is a spot that you can do that. You'll see that there's an option there to create scenes that way. But for me, and for today's lesson, we're going to be doing it from the View menu. Now you'll go to the very bottom here and it says Animation, and we're going to hover over the word Animation and click on Add Scene. View, Animation, Add Scene. When we do that, a Scene tab appears for us, Scene number 1. It basically takes the view, the orbit, the zoom, wherever I am in space, and it saves that location for me, and it won't forget it. Now I'm going to pan a little bit, and I'm going to orbit a little, and I'm going to get myself set up into another scene here. And I'm going to zoom a little closer and pan. Not bad, not bad. So we'll go to View, Animation, and we're going to add another scene. Add Scene. And now we have 2. Let's do one more. Let's orbit, pan, and zoom. Let's even try our field of view that we just learned. And let's go View, animation, add scene. Now it's important to note that all that orbiting and zooming that I was doing doesn't affect the animation. It doesn't affect the save scene. It basically just saves what it's seeing in front of it at that time. So it doesn't matter how you got there, it only saves what it sees. So we're going to say add scene to that, and now we have 3 scenes. Now let's see if this remembers. We're going to click on the tab that says scene 1. It's going to take us all the way back to the first scene that I saved. Then we're going to go to scene 2. Great. Finally, scene 3. Pretty awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go back to scene 1. Now this is great for working, but it's also fun to create animations in this way. So I can actually save an animated file, a bit of a video walkthrough of my space that I can load to YouTube later. I can load it to video editing software later. It's a lot of fun. And we're going to do a few things now to set that up to save an animation. The first thing we're going to do is go to the View menu, go back to Animation, but we're going to click on Settings. There are some default settings in SketchUp that I like to change. The first one is the scene delay. Now, right now, this animation would take me from scene 1, it would take the quickest path to scene 2, and finally it would go back to scene 3. Between scenes, it's set up to take 2 seconds to go from scene 1 to scene 2. Then it would be set to stop for a second, and then take 2 seconds to then go to scene 3 and stop for a second. So I like to take off the scene delay so I have a continuous looping animation. And I usually like to increase the scene transition speed so I can really slow down my animation. When that's complete, we'll click on the X. And the next step here, it's quite easy, is to go to View, Animation, and Play. Now what's going to happen as soon as I click on Play is this animation will continuously loop through that walkthrough of the space. And it's helpful sometimes if you're sitting with a client to let that animation be happening perhaps while you're showing the client finishes of the space, so the two can be happening at the same time for a great visual for your client. So I'm going to click Play. It will take a second to get itself back to scene 1, and soon you'll see this begin to play. Notice the speed? It slowed way down because I went from 2 seconds to 5 seconds. And back again. When you're done with that animation, you can click on Stop. Excellent. Now, what if I wanted to save that animation file and insert it somewhere else, like I said, to YouTube, etc.? This is also under the Export menu. And you'll notice that if I click on Export, there is an animation option. So I can go Video. I can save the video wherever I want as an MP4 file, an AVI file, just different formats that you can save it. I like the MP4, and I can call it Movie, and I want everyone to go ahead and do that. It takes about probably 5 to 8 minutes to export, but go ahead and export that little video that we just made to your desktop.